Clara sat at her desk, surrounded by a clutter of wedding invitations, checklists, and colorful fabric swatches. It was another hectic week in her life as a wedding planner, and the phone call she had. Wait, is this a live flamingo at the reception? Oh, great. She rolled her eyes and sighed deeply. Clara loved her job, but some days it felt like she was juggling a million things at once. Just wait. This time it was her assistant, Lily. Clara, I've got some news. The photographer for the wedding this weekend, it's Ben. Clara froze. Ben? Ben who? Ben. Your ex, Lily replied, her voice raw. She hadn't seen him in over 2 years, and the thought of working with him again, well, it was far from ideal. The memories, the unresolved issues, all of it came rushing back. Great, Clara muttered. The venue with stunning elegant chandeliers, crisp white linens, and floral arrangements everywhere. She quickly jumped into action, coordinating with the caterers, setting up the seating chart, and Anne. Clara, Ben said, his voice just a little too calm for the situation. Long time no see. Clara forced a smile, the awkwardness settling in. Ben, I didn't expect you here. He raised an eyebrow. Yo. Guess I should have warned you I was the one handling the photography, Ben said, adjusting his camera again. You're probably expecting someone else, huh? Clara could already feel the discomfort boo. Clara watched as he walked off, her stomach doing somersaults. She had been dreading this moment seeing him again after all the years. They hadn't exactly parted on good terms. She had never expected. They had once been so close, shared so much. But those memories felt distant, now almost like a different lifetime. And yet, here they were standing in the same space, awkwardly trying to pretend they're. The first few hours of the wedding flew by in a blur of activity, but nothing could prepare Clara for what happened next. The ceremony went off without a hitch, and the reception was starting to feel. But when the catering team started to move the towering 6-tier masterpiece into place, disaster struck. One of the staff members tripped over a cable, sending the entire cake toppling to the ground. She immediately ran over to the wreckage, her mind racing for a solution. The bride and groom, standing nearby, had wide-eyed looks of horror. Clara, what do we do? The groom asked, almost on the vet. Ben looked at the ruined cake and then back at Clara, his brow furrowed. Well, I'm not exactly a cake decorator, he said dryly. Clara glared at him. Do you have any other ideas, Mr. Photographer? Clara watched, amused despite the situation. Ben, the man who had once caused her so many headaches, was now working to save her skin. As he carefully cut pieces of the remaining cake and arranged flow, Clara shook her head, trying to hold back the laughter that threatened to spill out. I never thought I'd see the day you'd save my wedding cake, she said, a small chuckle escaping her lips. Just as Clara, now even more frazzled, began pacing. She grabbed her phone, dialing the groom's number as Ben hovered nearby, attempting to stay out of the way but clearly aware of the escalating disaster. See? The wedding wasn't over yet, and she wasn't about to let it fall apart. She turned back to the bride and groom, ready to fix the next mess that came her way. The day dragged on, and Clara couldn't shaw. The cake was, well, passable, and the bride's father had finally returned from his walk, albeit slightly confused and disoriented. But Clara wasn't celebrating just yet. There was still the matter-o. It had been a long time since they had last spoken, and the awkwardness between them was still palpable. She heard footsteps approach and, without turning, knew it was Ben. He sat down beside her, The music was light, the guests swaying to the rhythm of the song, and for a moment, everything felt normal again. But the quiet was broken when Clara finally turned to him. Why are you here, Ben? You know, I wasn't exactly thrilled to see you again. There was a brief pause, and Ben leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. You think I wanted to be here? After everything? He looked at her. She had expected him to be defensive, to throw the past in her face, but instead he was honest. Then why does it feel like there's still something between us? Clara whispered more to herself, th. Clara's heart skipped a beat, and for a moment she thought she might say something back. But before she could, Ben stood up abruptly, his hand running through his hair in frustration. "I'm sorry." She was angry, confused, and, despite everything, a little relieved. "Well, it's hard not to think about it when we're standing here together, talking like we're strangers." "Ben, we didn't just fall AP?" The air between them shifted, the weight of unspoken words hanging over them like a storm cloud. But before either of them could say more, the music from the dance floor broke the tension, reminding, "But for now, we just need to get through this wedding." "Let's focus on that." She turned to walk away, but as she did, she glanced back one last time. Ben was still standing there, watching her, his fa. Clara stood by the door, checking the guest list one last time, her mind still reeling from the conversation with Ben earlier. Despite the emotional chaos of the day, everything seemed to be coming to. The words he'd said, how maybe there was something between them, still had left her heart racing, but also filled with confusion. She took a deep breath and turned back to the main room. "The last of the..." Clara walked over to him, her footsteps hesitant. "Ben, she started, but then stopped, not sure where to begin. Ben set the camera down and looked at her with a mixture of exhaustion and curiosity. Ben's face softened, and he gave her a small, almost sheepish smile. "You don't need to thank me. You're the one who made it all happen. I just helped clean up the mess," he said with a chuckle. Ben leaned back in his chair, his gaze never leaving her. "Neither did I," he admitted quietly. "I thought we had it all figured out when we broke up, but maybe we were just too young? Too stubbo. Maybe they had both learned something in the years apart." "I never understood why we ended things the way we did," Clara said, her voice quieter now. "But I think I get it now. We both had so much too." She wasn't sure what this meant, what they meant, but she knew one thing for certain. It felt right. The awkwardness, the unresolved tension, it was all slowly melting away, replaced by something new, She had spent so much time trying to move on, trying to convince herself that she was better off without him. But standing there now, she realized that she wasn't so sure anymore. Maybe they both need just the possibility of something new, something better. The final guests had left the venue, the music had faded, and the lights dimmed. Clara stood at the edge of the dance floor, looking around She found herself standing there, lost in thought, when Ben appeared beside her. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, his presence comforting in the quiet after the storm. "Are you Auric?" "Even with all the madness." Ben chuckled and leaned against a nearby pillar. "I don't think I'll ever forget that wedding. I've shot plenty of weddings, but I've never seen one quite like this. You're the reason this day turned out as well as it did." There was something in the way he looked at her, something different than before. It was a softness, an understanding. The kind of look that she could feel the uncertainty, the fear of the unknown, but there was also a sense of hope. The same hope that had started to grow inside her earlier that night. "I don't know," she admitted, "but She wasn't sure what the future held for them. There were no guarantees, no promises, but in that moment, she didn't need them. She had learned over the past few hours that sometimes things worked. The future was uncertain, yes, but for the first time in a long time, it didn't matter. What mattered was that she was no longer alone in it. And with that thought, Clara took Ben's hand and they sank.